I got to meet all these famous people in the best possible way. I was not blasé about it because I grew up in the Valley, really, not in Hollywood. Rob Reiner and Albert Brooks and other people grew up on the other side of the hill. But I lived in the Valley in a very kind of middle class neighborhood with my dad, the character actor Ed Begley. So at age 16, he does a movie with Debbie Reynolds, and I'm invited to Debbie Reynolds' house.
Wow.
I just could barely contain my speech. And then a few years later, I meet Cindy Williams introducing me to Jack Nicholson and the Mamas and the Papas and this one and that. I got to be a real fanboy and not be blasé. I'm eating Debbie Reynolds. Oh, wasn't like that at all. I was excited to eat Stern.
Turn your speakers up to 11 because it's time for Too Much Effing Perspective, the podcast that asks musicians and entertainers to relive their most Spinal Tap moments, which may not have been too funny when they happened, but are hilarious in retrospect. I'm your host, Alan Keller, a comedy writer in LA and former lead singer of the least heralded Chicago band, the Falling Wallendas.
And I'm your co-host, Alex Hoffman, former tour manager for Radiohead and former lead singer of the least heralded Milwaukee band, the Vainglorious.
Our guest today is our first one who was actually in the movie This Is Spinal Tap, as well as nearly every great TV show in history, and an environmental activist who took public transportation to the Oscars, Ed Begley Jr.
Ed tells us about Harry Nilsson taking him to John and Yoko's place at the Dakota for dinner, meeting A-list celebrities with his friend Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley, and smoking a J with Charles Manson.
Ooh. So without further ado, let's go to the TMEP Show.
It really puts perspective on things, doesn't it?
Not too much. There's too much
Yeah.
effing perspective now.
Alex, you and I are family men. We've been married a long time to the same woman. I mean, different women, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would have married your wife if you hadn't, but
Who wouldn't?
my wife wouldn't have minded.
I got a number early. I woke up and stood in front of Tower Records. But you and I are also really close to our parents. My 97-year-old mother, Beverly, lives with me and I take care of her. And I know you drop everything if your mom or dad needed you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my mom and dad have been married 61 years. Can't overstate the influence and impact they've had on my life.
So I'm sure you'd agree that there couldn't be anything more earth-shattering, more disruptive, more rock you to the core than discovering that the family you thought you knew so well had a secret and they kept it from you.
Yeah, that would be traumatic. And I seem to remember you sharing a story like that in a previous episode. Would you tell that again?
Yeah, I mean, when I was 10, I found a large portrait in my parents' closet of a little girl on a hobby horse. When I asked my mom who it was, she broke into tears and ran away from me. And later I found out that that little girl was a sister of mine, Susie, who died 10 years before I was born at the age of 3 from pneumonia. It was understandably such a difficult period for my parents that they swept it under the rug and never mentioned it, not even in passing.
Wow, that is shocking.
And in retrospect, it kind of filled a hole in my understanding of my parents' relationship, which was not very good, but it also left a hole in my own perception of how close my family was. I mean, how could I really know my parents if I didn't know about the most consequential moment in their lives?
That's heavy stuff, old chum.
And I only bring this up in our comedy podcast because our guest today, Ed Begley Jr., survived a family secret that was also, I'm sure, really difficult. An experience he shared in common with his good friend, Jack Nicholson.
Yes, and it's quite a revelation. I'm sure our listeners want to know what it is. So let's not keep them in suspense any longer and get to our talk with Ed. But first, a short break.
And now an actor who has not only been in This Is Spinal Tap, but also Christopher Guest's Best in Show, Mighty Wind, For Your Consideration, and Mascots, Ed Begley Jr. Ed, thank you for joining the show. This is a very special day for us because you are our first guest who is actually in the movie This Is Spinal Tap. You played drummer Stumpy Pepys, who died in one of those signature ways Spinal Tap drummers seem to go.
I died in a bizarre gardening accident.
Right.
It is a black and white kinescope, I believe. And I'm the first drummer and I have on some goofy glasses that were my real glasses. So I finally realized I was getting all these goofy nerd parts. They could have just rented the glasses. They didn't need to hire me. But I knew Rob Reiner, I knew Chris Guest and Michael McKean and Harry Shearer very well. They're part of different comedy groups and loop groups that I worked with. So I got that call because I knew them, and they remembered that I was a drummer, and they thought I could plod my way through this one scene. I didn't have to talk, just play the drums and look goofy, and I succeeded on both counts.
It's very memorable. Very memorable. But that was recorded way before they actually went into production on the movie, correct?
That's my memory. They said, this is not going to be part of the movie. We'll probably reshoot it if we do the movie, but we'll see about that. But it's just to try to raise funds for the movie. And so it's part of, that effort. And then when they decided to put it in, they went, wait a minute, it's supposed to be a poor quality old kinescope, so we can use exactly what we shot. We don't have to shoot it again on 35 millimeter with a Panaflex. Back then, they didn't do what I just said. Now that I think about it, it was shot on 16 millimeter, all those earlier movies. Guffman, I think, was too, on 16, and then they bumped it up from there.
And it was like 1980 when you recorded that, right?
That's my memory, yeah. 80 or 81, yeah.
I think I should know this since I have a podcast about it, but I think the first time they ever performed as Spinal Tap on TV was their pilot for the TV show, which was, I think, 79 or 80. So you were pretty much really early in the Spinal Tap cycle, weren't you?
I didn't know to this moment, you're telling me, and I don't doubt you, that there was a pilot for a TV show. They were going to do it as a TV show.
I think it was actually called the TV Show, and it was Reiner and the guys. I don't know if it ever got past the pilot stage. You can actually see it on YouTube, but
I didn't know
they
that.
actually performed parody of Midnight Special.
Oh, great.
Obviously, there wasn't a movie in production at the time. As you said, you were like on the original Kickstarter campaign to raise money for the film. But do you remember anything from that particular shoot?
Yeah, Danny Kirchmeyer was on it. He was a wonderful guitar player. I met him through Don Henley, actually, now that I think about it. We taped the thing. We did it in some little studio that was near like Gower and Melrose or something.
Oh.
I can't remember where exactly, but they rented some studio space. And I was never much of a drummer, but I was good enough to play this early stage of the Spinal Tap gang. Then when they first screened it, it got a laugh. The thing of me playing the drums and taking a little moment, posing, or whatever the hell I did. There was a laugh there that I wasn't even sure about. But, there was a lot of laughs to follow. I'm a big fan of that movie.
What did you think when you saw the movie for the first time? You weren't part of that process at all, right? It was just that early little scene.
Right. Years later, they did the full movie, and lots of people. Bruno Kirby worked on it, and Angelica Houston, and Fran Drescher.
Sure.
Paul Schaefer was in it. Tony Hendra. Great bunch of people. I think Howard Hessman was in it as well. All my friends were in it, so I thought, well, this is probably going to be good. And I saw a screening of it somewhere and went, oh my God, I had no idea. They played it so close to the wire. They didn't push too hard ever. They tried to make it as real as any of those, like Scorsese talking about the band or something, one of those kind of documentaries that were out about that same time. They kept it really straight like that, and then let the absurd comedy spike out from that carpet of reality they'd laid down. So many people were duped, as you know, into thinking, wow, where is this group playing next? I'd like to see the interesting band, and they have some skills, and let's go see them when they next appear.
I had a band called the Falling Wallendas. And
oh, yeah. Wow.
That movie was such a touchstone for everybody because it rings so true.
Yeah, many people watched it again and again. And back in those days, there was no DVDs, just a VHS. So you'd run it till it kind of stretched out the tape, what have you, became unwatchable after the 212th run. So people would buy multiple copies of our wonderful effort.
Now, I know that you were a fan of the early National Lampoon stuff, especially, what was the album called?
Radio Dinner.
Radio
like a TV dinner,
I mean,
but a radio dinner, yeah.
And really, all American comedy kind of springs from National Lampoon, right?
Yeah.
At least contemporary. How did you end up meeting Christopher Guest?
Through Tony Hendra. He was a drinking buddy of mine back in the 70s.
And Tony played Ian Faith, the manager in Spinal Tap.
Right. So I met him one day. So we're doing a little National Lampoon audio recording at the studio. I got to stop and see how it's going. Will you come with me? And I came with him, and in the studio with the guitar in hand was one Christopher Guest. And I had met his sister, Alyssa Guest, who used to go with Harry Giddis, a wonderful producer and friend of mine. So I threw her name around like crazy and tried to ingratiate myself to Chris because I love that Radio Dinner album. And Chris was one of the best things in it, of course.
The infantry that don't ask why. Hi, I'm Bob Dylan. Remember those fabulous 60s? The marches, the bands.
He was just fantastic in that. So I was a huge fan, got to meet the object of my adoration, and we became friendly. He did a movie later with my friend Bruno Kirby, and he knew Rob Reiner, and, you know, they used to play softball, and I would hang around the softball games. I was no good at softball, but I was like the team photographer. So I made up baseball trading cards of all of the different players, and they were called the Hollywood Vampires because Alice Cooper was in the group as well.
Amazing.
And so I cut them out, the bubble gum that I got from some pack of real trading cards, cut it into a V for, you know, the vampires, and gave everybody a little pack of these things. I was trying to curry favor with that gang, and it worked. I was shameless.
That's so cool.
That is so cool.
Good for you.
So you talked about Bruno Kirby, a fantastic character actor. He passed away way too early. He's the chauffeur who brings up the Frank Sinatra quote in Spinal Tap. And he also was in another one of my favorite movies, Modern Romance, Albert Brooks's movie.
Great in Modern Romance. Bruno Kirby, a wonderful actor, a wonderful friend, one of my dearest friends for years. And he was so good in that movie.
You know, what's funny at his Life Imitating Art, when I was in LA with the Bodines one time, they had a hit song called Closer to Free that they were going to perform on the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award show, which was a sort of a strange event. So anyway, we were at the hotel and they sent the limo up to get us, to bring us down to the shoot. Alan was with me, and Alan had to sit up front with the driver in the limo while I was in the back with the band. So it was kind of
I totally forgot about that.
Kind of Spinal Tap.
The hierarchy of it all. Yeah, it's incredible stuff. Then after that, Chris came out with Waiting for Guffman, you know, that he directed. And I was slightly jealous that I was not called to be in that movie, but understood he can't hire everybody in every movie that he knows or even likes. But then when I saw that movie, I went, you wouldn't change or recast the thing. It was such a perfect movie. Then I get that other call right after I saw Guffman. He said, I'm going to do a movie about dog shows. Do you want to be the hotel manager? And I could scarcely contain my enthusiasm. You know, I think I did a spit take at the lunch that we had together.
So you've been in every Christopher Guest movie since then. You were in Best in Show. You were in A Mighty Wind. You're in For Your Consideration, which I just rewatched.
Yeah.
You're in Mascots. Best in Show is, to me, the gold standard of all those.
Me too. I love that movie.
And you're so great because you play it totally straight. Are you the concierge or just a reservation?
I think I'm the hotel manager, assistant manager. But my job, I realized right away, was all I had to do was just not lose it. You know, I'm there and I've got Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara across the desk for me at first. And then, you know, Michael McKean and Michael Higgins. And all I got to do is just kind of do my Easter Island impression, you know, and just not go sky high because they're doing all this great stuff. What's going to enhance it best is not me saying a single word or even moving a muscle, but just to stand there and take in the brilliance which they're pouring forth. It was just incredible. And then I got to talk a bit myself when we go into the, the storage closet about the pet cleaners and what have you. And Chris let me go and got into some funny stuff. And you might have noticed I referred to a band at a previous stay, and they roasted a goat in the room and what have you, and we couldn't get the smell of cumin out of the draperies. I was, of course, referring to Spinal Tap, a little homage to them.
That's awesome.
In the Best in Show improv.
That's cagey.
That is so great. You just used a term I don't know. Alan may know this, but what's a spit take?
A spit take is something that Danny Thomas used to do, a comedian long before your time, both of you. He had something called the Danny Thomas Show, and his agent, it was mostly his agent, he'd say, Danny, I got you a booking at the Copa, but it's for tonight. And he'd like spit out his coffee. He'd be so shocked by the tag. There'd be some big news at the end of a fairly mundane sentence that would cause him to spit out his coffee or whatever he's having. And it was used often on the Danny Thomas Show. It's used on many shows, but it was used multiple times in that fine show.
This dovetails really great, the spit take thing. Thank you, Alex. So first of all, you're in another one of the great comedies in history. You're in The In-Laws.
Oh, boy. Thank you. Yes, that's a great film.
Great film. And Alan Arkin and Peter Falk, two singular comic talents. But the greatest spit take in history, as far as I'm concerned, is the sequel to The In-Laws. Do you remember the movie Big Trouble?
Yeah, I'm a good friend of Albert Brooks. I just saw him for New Year's. Yes, I love Albert Brooks, and I love the sequel too.
No, not the sequel to In-Laws, the kind of sequel to The In-Laws, which is called Big Trouble. And it's Peter Falk and Alan Arkin, again, kind of as the same characters. And John Cassavetes directed it.
How have I never seen this movie? I was ringing a bell. Of course, I know about this movie, and I missed it. It's part of the deficiency in my cinema education. I got to see that.
So, Ed, the funniest scene in movie history is in Big Trouble. It's not as good a movie as The In-Laws, but there's Alan Arkin, who obviously is brilliant, spit take in there, which is pee in your pants funny. I got to meet Alan Arkin once, and I talked to him about that, and he didn't have good memories of Big Trouble because Peter Falk got Cassavetes to direct it, and he said Cassavetes couldn't direct comedy. He would come in with like 8 pages of rewrites every morning. And so Alan Arkin just didn't like the process very much. But there's a scene in there, Ed, that you're going to die, especially if you like spit takes and you like Alan Arkin and The In-Laws.
I love both.
Can you tell us something about making The In-Laws?
There is a bit of a story to that. I went in and happy to have an audition with two greats like Peter Falk and Alan Arkin. So I auditioned and got it, playing this CIA guy stationed at a remote embassy. And that part was fine. And I also had a job at the same time that finished just the day before was to start The In-Laws down in Mexico in Cuernavaca. Late that evening, actually, in time to make an early flight to Cuernavaca, I worked late that evening on a show called Elvis with Kurt Russell playing Elvis. And Elvis's drummer had very noticeably dark hair. I do not, I'm a blonde. So the woman in the hair department said, I got to start a job the next morning. So they hired a blonde. I can't have this dark. She said no, it'll come out real easy. I woke up that morning to make my early flight, looked in the mirror. Suddenly I'm looking at Opie, Ron Howard as a kid on the TV show. I'm red as a baboon's ass. So I don't know what to do. I get in the plane. I get to Cuernavaca. And I decided to just go for it. I go all in. I said, don't go to the hotel. I tell the driver, take me right to the set. I go to Arthur Hiller. I don't bother Peter and Alan with this. I say, Arthur, I'm going to go to the hotel. I just want to stop and let you see. This is a totally temporary rinse I just put in this morning myself. It'll come right out. But I think this character is not a blonde, but a redhead. And I really feel strongly about it. What do you think? Actually, yes, that's good. Make it permanent or do it every day. I like that. Redhead is good for this. What if he had said no? I'd be in deep shit, I guess, maybe get fired. But here's what's interesting. I've been a redhead in that movie for many years until the recent DVD release, digitally remastered. Somebody looked and went, that's not Ed Begley's hair. They turned a knob and made me a blonde again.
Oh, you're kidding.
I swear to God, I just saw it like 3 years ago.
Wow.
Paul Reiser, the wonderful friend of Peter's, Paul Reiser, he loved Peter like I did a movie with him where he played his son and spent time with Peter, over the years. He was asked to do this Malibu Film Festival, which is common to show one of your own movies when you do a film festival like that. In fact, everybody always showed their own movie. That was the custom. He said, I'm not going to show my movie. I want to show a movie my friend made called The In-Laws. And I saw it again about 5 years ago when Paul did that wonderful thing. It totally holds up. There's a scene in a diner with the two of them that is as good as any comedy scene you've ever seen before or since. It's a brilliant movie. It really is well done.
And you do a great Peter Falk impersonation. Can you give us a little sample of that?
I used to be able to do it. I'm not sure at my age with my voice I can, but I'll try.
Ed is taking off his glasses, just so you know.
Could I ask you something? That guy, there was a guy that had a problem with his hair color, and I can't remember he was a real pain in the ass. What the hell was his name? Blonde, and he was red, and he's blonde again. We had the same birthday, September 16th, and we spent many birthdays together.
Just so everyone knows, Peter Falk, if you don't know, was Columbo. Much more than that, but Columbo was his signature character.
He was a great actor and a great friend. And Shara, his wife, I love her. And yeah, I imagine meeting him as a young kid, relatively young. I was like 25 or 26. Get to meet him on Columbo. I could barely keep my heart from stopping.
That is so neat.
And the same with Alan Arkin. Alan Arkin, likewise, a great, great talent. To work with him was off the charts.
And a Second City guy like me, I used to watch this old like 1960s performance with Arkin and Paul Sands and
Right.
Julie Harris. And it was so incredible. I mean, the best of the best.
The best of the best.
You know, I'm a TV kid from the 70s, right? And you are on every show from the 70s. And I want to go through these. And if it triggers a Spinal Tap moment, I would love to hear it. We're from Milwaukee originally. Our production company is Milwaukee Talkies. You're on the two shows that put Milwaukee on the map. You're on Happy Days. You were also on Laverne and Shirley. And Tom Miller, who created those shows, went to my high school. Arnold's drive-in is based on my drive-in that I grew up with, which was called the Milky Way. Anything from those shoots that you can remember? I mean, they're obviously a long time ago, but they're such seminal shows.
To work with Henry Winkler and to work with Ron Howard. I was a big fan of Ron Howard, of course, from the Andy Griffith Show.
Sure.
And Henry Winkler from the Lords of Flatbush.
Right.
There I'm working with them. I was on the first season. It was a one-camera show. It was not done before a live audience. It was done as a single camera show.
Oh.
So we get this shot, then we come over here and do that. There's no live audience during the making of that first season of it. And I was in it, things about hazing. There was a car club, like the Pharaohs in American Graffiti was that sort of a thing that I was part of. And Potsy and, Anson Williams and
Ralph Malph.
Yeah.
Donnie Most.
Donnie Most.
Yeah.
Wonderful Donnie, who's got a great voice, by the way. Great singer. They were trying to get into this club, and the Fonz winds up dancing with one of them because they have to go and drag as part of the hazing. But it was very funny, and I thought, wow, this could be a hit, and it certainly was, and went on for years and did a lot for Henry's career.
He as great a guy as everyone says he is.
He's the nicest man in show business. There's nobody nicer
That's what a lot of
than
people
him.
say. Yeah.
He is that, and he means it too. He's not just an act. He really cares about people. I've never seen anybody be so giving. He's really a wonderful fellow.
There's a statue in Milwaukee of the Fonz.
I've been there. I have a picture on my phone of me next to
Oh,
him.
you do?
Cool.
Well, you were also on Laverne and Shirley, Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams. Anything you can recall from that? Just because of our Milwaukee connection, they're kind of special.
My connection to all of Hollywood is certainly my dad. My dad was an actor, and people allowed me into their lives and their homes because of that. But the other significant connection, more immediate, my dad had passed away a few years at this point, and I got introduced to Harry Gittes, this producer friend of mine I alluded to earlier, got introduced to Jack Nicholson, got introduced to Helena Kalyaniotes, to Michelle Phillips, to all these wonderful Hollywood people through Cindy Williams.
Oh,
She was my friend.
Wow.
I met her on the set of Room 222, show that I did and Cindy did and Bruno Kirby did and Richard Dreyfuss did when we were still teenagers, or 20 maybe, or 21 perhaps. And we got to be friends on that show. And I wanted to date Cindy, and she had no interest in it whatsoever. So I became her, guy friend, and very happy to have that position through her life that sadly ended just a few years ago. But Cindy was my entree to all these people. Everybody I met through Cindy.
Amazing.
So she was a great, great dear friend. Nobody I've been closer to other than the two women I married. And I miss her still. I see her kids often. She was a great actress. People think of her as a TV actress, and she was certainly that and very good in Laverne and Shirley and other things. But she was a film actress. She was in American Graffiti. She was in Travels with My Aunt.
Right.
She was in The Conversation, a wonderful Francis Coppola movie.
Yes.
So I miss her every day, and she was a gem beyond words.
She's a legend. But also, Laverne and Shirley is important to the Spinal Tap world because that's where Lenny and Squiggy are from, and that's where Michael McKean, almost like one of his big roles. Did you meet Michael on Laverne and Shirley, or did you know him before that?
I did not know him before that. I met him through Cindy. I met him on the set of Laverne and Shirley, and we became great friends. And I was also right away an instant fan because I went, oh my God, this is the guy from the Credibility Gap.
Oh, right.
This wonderful improv group that did a thing on local radio, KFWB, I think it was, in LA, this big radio station at the time in the 60s. And they were sensational, doing Second City level kind of stuff because they had many of them work with those kinds of improv troupes and done lots of work with those same people. They knew Del Close and John Brent and Gary Goodrow, those legends of improv, and had worked with them. So they had the bona fides right away themselves. And I just pursued friendships with them all and got successful in courting them all, and Chris included, and Rob. I was a big fan of Rob from his show.
All in the Family.
All in the Family, yeah. And got to meet him because he was part of a group in LA called The Committee, that was an improv group that had been in San Francisco, then moved to LA to the Tiffany Theater. My first wife, Ingrid, worked there in the box office. So I kind of married into that group too, the Michael McKean kind of world.
Didn't Del Close work with the Committee for a while?
I think he did. I believe he did.
Del Close, by the way, is one of the legends of improv. He's from Second City, and so many people more famous than he attribute their fame and their gift to Del and his training.
Bob Odenkirk is one of them. Bob Odenkirk devotes at least a chapter to him in the book, and he deserves it. A great comic genius, Del Close.
And insane.
Totally insane. Yeah.
Insane man. All right. I want to get back to TV shows because it's just so exciting to me that you were on this stuff and we're talking about it. But, you know.
Well, Alan, I want to bring up one of those TV shows. I have to think, Ed, that when you appeared in the Charlie's Angels episode, Angels on Skates, that there had to have been at least one Spinal Tap moment that came up when you had to perform on roller skates.
I actually got the job by skating at this Monday night skating thing that started with Cher doing it. Cher liked to skate, and I liked to skate. And this woman, Helena Kalyaniotes, is a friend of Jack Nicholson. She liked to skate. So Cher went on tour, and we kind of took over a skating night ourselves. And one night I was skating there. There were people watching everybody skate by, but they didn't themselves skate. They looked like Hollywood types. They were people from Charlie's Angels TV show. They spotted me on skates, and so that was my audition. I got offered the part to be in that memorable show. If you've seen the episode recently, it's kind of ridiculous.
Where's Rita going?
I don't know.
You mean you don't know those men?
No, I don't.
Who are the angels on your episode?
Cheryl Ladd was the one I had the most to do with.
Let me just say, Cheryl Ladd, absolutely my favorite angel all time.
Yeah.
She was fantastic. What a lovely lady, too.
Well, I want to say you brought up something leads to a Spinal Tap moment that I've heard you talk about. You're friends with Jack Nicholson. Now, what do you and Jack Nicholson have in common?
At first, we had in common a friendship with Cass Elliot from the Mamas and the Papas.
Right.
I met Cass through Harry Gittes, who lived with Cindy Williams. Cindy Williams and Harry Gittes had a party. Cass was there. Helena was there. I got friendly with Helena and Cass, and I get invited to go to a dinner with friends, is the way Cass framed it. So I go to her house, meet her on Woodrow Wilson Drive, and drive to Mulholland. And there I am at a home of Jack Nicholson and Michelle Phillips. Michelle was living with Jack at the time. Have a dinner there.
Huh.
Michelle Phillips, to me, is the most beautiful woman ever in music.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Mamas and Papas she was in with Cass Elliot.
And so then about a week later, Cass invites me again to go out to hear some friends play music downtown. Downtown is the music center, the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion or something. And playing is the opening act is Jackson Browne. The main act we all have come to see is one Joni Mitchell, and hanging out with her backstage. So that's the kind of world I'm suddenly thrust into because of Harry Gittes, because of Cindy Williams.
Amazing. But you have a very specific thing with Jack Nicholson. Both of you didn't know who your real mothers were until later, right?
That is correct. I didn't even know any of that at the time. And more interestingly, Robert Towne and Jack roomed together for a while. They're certainly good friends for years. And Robert Towne wrote into the brilliant film Chinatown the following exchange. Who is she? Tell me. She's my sister. Slaps her. I'm sister, daughter, sister, daughter, sister. And Jack had kind of a thing like that going himself at the time. Was it his sister? Was it his mother? Turned out June was in fact his mother.
Now, I wouldn't bring up this sensitive topic hadn't I heard you talk about it on another podcast, but you found out the woman you always believed to be your mother actually wasn't on your way to get your driver's license with your dad.
Exactly. I get the news. I finally look at my birth certificate for the first time. We're driving to the DMV to get my driver's license, and there's no mother's name in the birth certificate. So I say to my dad, the actor, Ed Begley Sr., who's driving, I'm in the back seat. Dad, why is there no mother's name on my birth certificate? Just keeps driving after an interminable amount of time because Amanda wasn't your mother.
Oh, God.
Oh, my. Wow.
Who is my mother? Sandy's your mother. Sandy, woo, woo, woo. Sandy, this woman I love, this woman I was crazy about, something about this woman that turned out to be my mother. Where was I driving at that moment, the very moment he told me that? Past a driveway shared by Marlon Brando and Jack Nicholson. I got the news right at that same moment I was passing by their driveway. Two guys I got to be close to for many decades.
Wow.
Unreal.
And it's all in that book right behind me.
Yes, right there. To the Temple of Tranquility and Step on It.
That's right.
Well, that's a fantastic story. That's almost the ultimate Spinal Tap moment. Probably wasn't funny when it happened, but in retrospect, wow.
Pretty amazing.
I have been trying to go to your TV shows from the 70s because if anyone grew up in the 70s, this was your life, right? You were on Mannix with Mike Connors. You were on Love Boat. You're on Adam 12. You were on My Three Sons, your first role, which is crazy. We had Julie Bowen on, and Julie's backdrop was the My Three Sons logo.
Fantastic. I didn't know that. That's so cool.
And then Starsky and Hutch. I just saw Fiddler on the Roof, Paul Michael Glazer, who was Starsky. I forgot that he was in Fiddler on the Roof.
Huh.
You're also on Beretta. You know, Robert Blake is a legendary character in Studio City because he allegedly murdered his wife by a restaurant here.
Vitello's.
Vitello's, right, of course. You were also on MASH, one of the great comedies ever. You were on Ironsides.
Yep.
I do have one more question, though. Did you and Buddy Epson have a beef? Because you never were on the shows The Beverly Hillbillies or Barnaby Jones.
I am in Barnaby Jones. I've got the tape to prove it.
All right. I apologize for that.
Wow.
But you were also on a show that I don't think people know enough about today. It's still a unique show. Mary Hartman.
What a groundbreaking show that was. Louise Lasser, Mary Kay Place, Graham Jarvis. Great writing. Dennis Klein was the writer. Norman Lear, of course, created it with others. It was just a brilliant show, and I got to be on that. That was my first taste of fame. Even though I played a deaf mute, I didn't have a single line.
Yeah.
You know, I was known for being in that show. And back then, a little show like that was only on Channel 11 LA, not one of the three networks, you still get like 10 or 11 million people watching you, which is nowadays a huge hit. That was my first taste of going through the airport and people stopping me and, you know, thinking I'm somebody famous.
But it's even better than that. What icon of the highest magnitude was impressed when he and his wife met you and realized that you were from Mary Hartman?
Yoko Ono and John Lennon were fans of the show, as it turns out. When Harry Nilsson brought me into their home for a dinner, I was, you know, shocked. I didn't know where we were going. You know, let's go visit some friends for dinner. It was like Cass Elliot did to me many times. I go over there and it's John and Yoko, and he couldn't be more friendly. They had no help in evidence. She made an acrobatic meal herself. We had a lovely meal. Kept going, I know you, and don't I know you? I said, we met at the Troubadour Bar years ago. I can't imagine you remember. No, oh, Yoko, it's a deaf mute. Mary Hartman, look at Steve. For fuck's sake, it's Steve, look at him. And suddenly I'm trying to keep my face from crystallizing and cracking and shattering to the floor because John Lennon was going on about Louise Lasser and me and Mary Hartman. Such has been my life. I'm one lucky old man.
Oh, my goodness.
So fantastic. And, Harry Nilsson, of course, one of our favorites. We have shorter shows, which are called Quick Taps. And one of our guests, a friend of mine, Jim Cushionary, met Harry at Madame Wong's. He was in a band and they played Twist and Shout. And I think he might have forgot the words or something. I mean, there's 8 words, but Harry Nilsson was there and came up to him and goes, how dare you do that to the Isley Brothers song? John Lennon would have never done that. And they got in an argument. And my friend Jim said to Harry Nilsson, he goes, Harry Nilsson, I was a fan of yours, but you're an asshole. You haven't written a hit song in the last 16 years. And Harry Nilsson goes, I've never written a hit song. They became friends after that. Can you talk about your friendship with the legendary Harry Nilsson a little bit?
It's sad that I don't remember how I met Harry, but I did meet him at a bar somewhere, I know.
Of course.
But we both had a thirst back in those days. He liked his gargles, and so did I. He also was a guy who taught me that there's a calendar trick that I used to be able to do. I could tell you what day of the week you were born. You give me the year and the date, and I could do that. I can't do it so much anymore. But I learned that from Harry. and lots of other great things. What a talent, what a great singer, what a great songwriter. We were friends right till the end. I got to meet Ringo through Harry.
Oh, that's just fantastic.
Ed, we are super appreciative of your time and these stories. This has been so much fun.
Likewise.
Tell us just one or two more things. And again, there may or may not be a Spinal Tap moment here, but we heard it on good authority that you actually smoked pot with one Charles Manson.
I did that.
Could you share that story with us?
In my defense, he hadn't killed anybody at that point or ordered somebody to be killed.
As far as we know.
That you knew of.
1969. Oh, no, 1968 it was, because those horrible murders that happened a year later, in August of 69, I believe. But it was 68. My friend James Jeremias, we're friends to this day. We went to Valley College together. He's a wonderful writer. He wrote a movie called Lost Boys. At the time, we were struggling students learning cinematography at Valley College. And he says, I got to go visit my friend David. He lives up in the hills, the Simi Hills. I said, sure. So we get up there, we smoke a joint, and meet his friend who lived in a tree house near a saloon, is where his friend lived, and did this crazy art. And he used to shoot speed, and all of it was kind of wild. But we only brought one joint. We wanted more. Said, well, let's go up to the main house. The family lives up there, and we'll go. They've got some pretty good pot usually. So we go up and smoke a joint with these people, Lisa and Tex, and I think somebody named Charlie. And we go back to the car that was parked next to the saloon that I didn't mention was not a real saloon, but a Western town saloon at the Spawn Ranch in the Simi Hills. And there it was. A year later, I called my friend James and said, did we smoke a joint with Charlie Manson? He went, we sure as hell did.
Wow.
That was them.
That's crazy. That's a really crazy story. Did he play you any of his music?
No, but he brought it up. He recognized my name, Ed Begley Jr. You related to Ed Begley, the actor? I said, yeah, that's my dad. He said, do you know anybody in the music business? I said, no, I barely know people in the TV business that I'm trying to get into in movies. But I didn't know a lot of musicians back then. And so, fortunately, I did not become the object of his ire the way Doris Day's son did.
Right.
Terry Melcher is who they actually went to kill.
Oh, right.
And unfortunately, whoever they killed, it was most unfortunate, but they didn't even get the right people they thought they were trying to kill. Yikes.
Yeah, it's interesting.
For people who don't know this, Charles Manson was a musician. He was friends with Dennis Wilson, right? Brian's brother from the Beach Boys.
Yes.
And he basically was a bitter guy who didn't get a record contract. And that was kind of the impetus behind all the activity.
I want to just qualify that I read Helter Skelter. When I was like a teenager, he grew up in foster homes. He was in and out of
he's a damaged human being.
Juvenile detention as a kid. There was a lot more behind it than the fact that he never got a record deal. Yeah. Let's just put it that way.
Alex is, by the way, the prominent Manson apologist in the podcast world.
Yeah, exactly. You need some justification for any mass murder, you come to me.
I have stories in this book that I'm holding up now since it's a podcast. They can't see it, but you guys can, about not only that very insane moment with Charles Manson, but also some advice I get on how to get rid of a weapon in a dumpster from Robert Blake. Oh. And I used to charge my electric car at O.J. Simpson's house.
Wow.
Cato Kalin would tell me to plug in near the wall. Yes, that wall, that Cato. So there's some interesting stuff in this book, To the Temple of Tranquility and Step on It.
Oh, my goodness.
We're going to provide a link as well in the description of the podcast.
Yeah, we absolutely will do that. I want to ask for something more pedestrian, then we'll wrap things up, Ed, which is in your commitment to environmentalism and personifying sustainable living, you have taken public transportation to the Academy Awards the last 2 years in a row. Have there been any Spinal Tap moments as you are traveling to the theater using, where are we going, the subway or on the bus? How are you doing that?
I would take the subway to the theater and then walk the distance, because there's a stop right there at the subway. But the problem is the stop comes up right in the middle of the red carpet. So they have to shut that stop down. You have to walk, I think it's about a half a mile from the Vine Street stop to get to Highland. So you have to have a real game partner with you. My wife, Rochelle, was never interested in walking in a mile holding her heels in her hand. But my daughter, Hayden, was. So we did it together many times. And Rochelle would do it with me too, in a way, because she'd just ride with somebody who was driving an electric car anyway, so there's no extra fuel used. And I would take the subway and promote public transportation. But I've probably done it 10 times. I'd just bike there and meet my wife there. The problem was the year that it rained. I came into the Academy Awards looking like a wet dog.
Well, right. Those are the hazards. You know what the thing we have not asked, Ed, which is, sorry, Ed,
It's like Columbo. One more thing. Can I ask you one more thing?
One more thing.
we ask every guest, and it's a unique question for you. What is your favorite scene in the movie This Is Spinal Tap?
My favorite scene, the confrontation that Chris Guest has with, I think it's Angelica Houston afterwards, after they did the failed Stonehenge thing where they have the inches and feet, misunderstanding. That's pretty good too.
That's your friend Tony Hendra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's Ian Faith.
Yep.
Who has the altercation with Angelica
Oh, that's
Houston.
right. That's right. You're right. It is. It's Tony Hendry.
Yeah.
Well, Ed, listen, thank you so much for your time. This has been a blast. Is there a site to find out whatever you're doing on social media?
Go to edbegley.com. You can find some things there. Or on Instagram, it's ed_Begley/JR for Junior. That's me, and I'll respond as I always do. You guys are great. I heard it was a great show to do, and they weren't lying. You guys are wonderful.
That's really kind of you to say, Ed. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, Alan.
A spit take. That's like me when Taylor Swift texted asking if she could be a guest on this podcast. Or Alan when the Spinal Tap guys reached out inviting him and me, as the leading purveyors of Spinal Tap lore and podcasting, to make a cameo appearance in the Spinal Tap 2 feature film. In the immortal words of Garth from Wayne's World. As if. Thanks to Ed Begley Jr. for turning us on to an eminently usable expression. You'll be hearing that one again. Too Much Effing Perspective is a Milwaukee Talkies original. Our editor is Gretchen Kilby. Our music composer is J.K. Harrison. Please follow us on Instagram at TMEP Show. Visit our website at tmepshow.com to sign up for our email list and find our other episodes featuring rock stars, comedians, and entertainment luminaries whose bizarro stories we enjoy and we think you will too on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen.
Although it would be as great as having armadillos in our trousers, this podcast is not affiliated with This Is Spinal Tap, and no person or entity connected with the film has sponsored or endorsed its content. This podcast is not affiliated, sponsored, or licensed by Authorized Spinal Tap LLC or Century of Progress Productions.
Evergreen Podcast Network.